This is where we'll meet at the Paul Wolf Campgrounds and Forest Preserve. There's the parking lot that comes off of Big Timber. There's adequate spaces here, and you'll see that the outhouse is open most of the year. There's an overhead shed area where you can rent that you don't have to go into the campground area, but you can actually park here, have functions reserved, and then there's a rock climbing boulder area. And this is exactly where we are right now. And we want to head to this area, which is what I call the fuse, head down to the beginning of the purple loop. The purple loop starts up here, but the loop itself is this. And if we go around the corner, you'll go through the wooded area. There's a summit over here with an oak tree, what I call the jug handle, and then the serpentine, and then it comes back out here. You can actually go back to the primitive campgrounds or go back and do another loop. So this is about 2 miles. Right, 2.24 miles is what you have. In case, because this is very exposed around the jug handle and the serpentine, sometimes in summertime you can actually cut into the woods, come back out here and just keep on doing smaller loops. But it's totally up to you as far as how you want to train. The bottom line is that if you just pick the purple loops and then the fuse, you'll have about 2.25 miles to keep on doing training so that you can accumulate total miles of whatever we're going to be doing at our destination place. So Bryce Canyon is going to be about a daily accumulation of 10 miles. So I would expect that we at least get 4 laps to give you about 8 to 9 miles. If you can do that, then you should be okay. If, again, this is flat, no elevation change compared to what we'll be having at Bryce Canyon, but at least it's some training that you can measure off and get your pace down for. So this is the best you can do. So let's go with our journey. And this is the restroom shower facility, which is closed for the season, but they open again in May. And here's the trailer and RV campground. These are all the slots, and then you have some over here that can back up to the wooded area. Way back there at the outhouse, I'll probably pass by that at the end, is where you have primitive campsites. The primitive campsites are where you can just walk in. You would usually park where we came in and walk in, get your tent set up, and then camp overnight for a nominal fee. Back there is the showers and restrooms for the campgrounds, and we're on the pavement. Now, this is the beginning of what I call the fuse, and I'll show you why for the purple trail. This is about halfway down the fuse. Here's the grass portion that leads to the outhouse. That's where the primitive campsites and the RVs can go, and this portion takes you to the woods, so we'll continue on. This would be the entrance for the woods, and you'll see the 2 caution signs here that signify entrance into the woods with the purple loop. And during the summer, it's nice because you'll have a lot of cover. These trees are high enough, and it's a short enough jaunt in the forest, so it keeps you cool for a while. But just to note, the majority of the trail, the purple trail here at the Paul Wolf Forest Preserve, is going to be outdoors, especially when you get to the what I call the jug handle and the serpentine. I'll show you where the jug handle starts. For days that it's really hot out, we might be able to go off of the purple trail and just cut back in, but there's other options that I'll show you on the board. But the only problem being it shortens the loop. And if you shorten the loop, you'll have to go around more frequently. I think 2.25 miles, 2.5 miles in a single loop makes it fun. You'll remember that if we're shooting for a 10-mile hike, then 4 times around will be fine. So it just makes it a little bit more convenient, and the numbers to me make it easier. So that's how I would train, especially in a large group. Here we are in the deep forest. This is an offshoot that I'll get to, or I'll explain in a second as we continue around the jug handle. That's an offshoot in case it is hot outside. As we get to the jug handle, which is the exposed part of the purple trail, you might be able to cut in and make this a shorter loop. This is still part of the forest portion of the purple loop. Still have to get up to the summit. The summit of this purple loop is going to be at an oak tree that has a little bit of an elevation change. It's the summit in Illinois terms because it's the biggest hill here in Elgin, and it's nothing spectacular, but it does make somewhat of a vista. I think that every forest preserve should have its vista, and maybe they designed it that way, but it's nothing like Colorado. But you have to take into account what we have available here, and it's pretty decent, but it gives you a goal to get to and a marker while you're on the purple trail, because remember, ultimately all we're doing is we're training at home so that when we get to the destination place, we're not so baked on the first day. So problems with training in Illinois is it's so flat, there's no elevation, and that doesn't really get you set for the mountains of the west or the valleys of the southwest. But this is the best we can do. Even the altitude, you can never train in the flatlands for something that's at high altitude. It's better to be cardiovascularly fit, you'll probably go farther, than to just work out in the gym, not do any cardio, getting way too fatigued when you get to your destination. Here we are. This is about the last curve of the forest portion. This is marker 24, purple route, and there's the oak. That's the summit of this purple trail. Obviously it's not a huge elevation change, but it is still a significant vista that looks over the fields here. I'll show you what it looks like. This is your field. It's a little bit of a bog. That's one trail that you can get to. The west side of Paul Wolf Forest Preserve and campgrounds, you have smaller connected trails that go through grass. The only problem now is that instead of pebble like this, the grass after a heavy rainfall like last night will be really sopping wet, and muddy at some portions. So could be a challenge, but it's nice here because you can choose your path that you want to take. And here is your summit, and this is how it looks. It's pretty nice up here, especially on a sunny day. And that's that's marker 23. Again, the purple loop. If you wanted to take the orange loop, that'll take you there as well, back to the woods. Now this enters into what I call the jug handle. This is the longest portion that's exposed and hot. This is the eastern border of the jug handle. You'll be parallel to a railroad track, and then this is an animal trail that, well, it probably started as an animal trail, but this will take you back to that shortcut in case it's way too exposed out here and it's deep summer. You can always go back that way and stay in the sheltered forest and then come back out the forest end, but it'll cut back on your mileage significantly. And then it'll also change around the loop. You'll close the loop and it'll make it a shorter loop. So part of the cool things with training in walking or running, especially if you're used to a track, is you can count your mileage and pace yourself depending on your time and the type of weather or the conditions based on how fast you move in the loop. Sometimes as you take a break for water, or you have to let the slower people in your party catch up, it's important to know where the mile markers are or the trail markers are so you can communicate with other people in your party. Inevitably, there's always going to be fast people and slow people. We want everybody to enjoy the hike, and that's how we get together and train. This is also another way to shortcut. In case that's too short, you can cut through and take that back into the forest. So still we're continuing with the jug handle. This is again the most eastward portion of the purple loop. We're just finishing up the jug handle, and this begins a serpentine It's just a couple of curves that brings us out to a fork right before heading back into the woods, or alternate to go to the campsites. We're at marker 19 for the trail, Purple Trail. That's also an extension off the Purple Trail if you didn't want to stay on the pebbles. There's not that many markers on the Purple Trail, jug handle to the serpentine portion, just because it's so long. Usually you get markers where you'll have branches or forks. And we're about to finish up the serpentine portion here. That collection of trees is where you'll have the camp. You're allowed to, during certain parts of the year, camp or at least RV at the Paul Wolf Forest Preserve. It's kind of nice. It's native or primitive camping, which you can start a campfire. It's a small fee. You have to pay for the logs there. And the cool thing is, because of the coyotes that are in the forest preserve, you'll be able to hear them at night. I don't think they'll bother the campers, but it makes you really feel like you're in nature. So we're going to finish up the serpentine portion and get back to where the fuse meets the Purple Trail loop. That fork will take you up to the primitive campsite. You can probably see a little bit of the outhouse. Then this will take you back to the Purple Loop where the fuse enters the loop. And that's going to complete at least one portion of the Purple Loop, which will probably give you a little less than 2 miles. But if you do this on a regular basis, you can count the laps and pace yourself with your training. And the cool thing is also, if you're not going for a 10-mile endurance hike, you can just do one loop and be done with 2 miles just to get it out. Or if you're not even in training and you just want to do some nature therapy, be in nature, you at least know what you accomplished with one single loop of the Purple Trail. So that's why it's so cool. I like the Paul Wolf Forest Preserve. There's a little bit of elevation with the oak. There's cover if you choose the forest. There's also exposure and some sites along the jug handle and the serpentine. So nice place to congregate. If you want to spend some time in the primitive campsites, or you have an RV, that too is cool. We've actually taken, when it wasn't too busy, they allowed me and my group to car tent in a RV section, just pulling back in and setting up a tent. If you start training now, don't let Chicago's cold weather keep you out of shape, so we can have a bigger time for bucket list activities. And if you aren't, come join me on my Facebook group, Dr. Rick Hiking Excursions, and or on my YouTube channel when I post videos about nature therapy and all things medical. Thanks for watching.